I have a motto when it comes to building network, and it's never approach anybody with your hands out wanting something. Always approach them with how can I help? And I think it's one of the things that both Tiny and I clicked on because he's also very much a how can I help?
This is a question for both of you. Lex, I think you could start first. I just want to hear what things were like for you guys in the very beginning, how this all started, how you got into music.
Um, well, so I got into music. I mean, similar to Tiny, and it's the reason why we have the number 16 in our company's name. But I got into music when I was 16, and it was a completely different music business. I come from the American side of the business, the urban side of the business early on in my career. Um, and so getting into it, I started as a producer. I wanted to produce, and I started going to New York City and shopping my beats. And I used to stand outside of the famed Sony studios and give my beat CDs to every person that would come, or I'll stand outside of Universal offices and I would wait. There would be that Starbucks right in the corner, so I'd wait in the Starbucks. And as soon as I see someone come out, I'd run and kind of give my beat CD. And as life would have it, I started having success and started managing Mario Winans and being a part of the Bad Boy team. And then one thing led to the other. And I've always been surrounded by producers, regardless of the success that I've had with artists or as a business. It's always been founded on a producer. I've found these guys from Miami called the Monsters and Strangers, um, put them together and took them to LA, and now they're these mega superstar producers and on Billboard and tons of number ones. But at the time, they were just some young guys wanted to do it, and so through that transition, I've also moved around about everywhere you could think of where music was, and I've been blessed enough to be right at the right place at the right time. So I was in New York when New York was the mecca of music, and was at the creme de la creme of where recording was happening, and the offices, and you went there to get the check, and uh, you know when literally there was only one producer management company at the time called Family Tree, and then I got to LA right as the migration of songwriter producers got to LA, and was able to be a part of that huge success of the songwriter producer community coming out to LA and making all these massive hits, and having all these artists kind of pop up like BB Rexa and Fifth Harmony, who we worked on early on with, and so many others like that we got to work on from day one with, and that was a really big blessing. And then I moved to Toronto to work for Universal, right in the midst of the Canadian kind of explosion. So I got to see, Shawn Mendes live down the street. I got to see Alessia Caras, Paul Run. I got to see The Weeknd, when it was his first show, and it was in the middle of nowhere because he didn't want anybody to see that like he was just starting and he didn't have a song out. I got to see a lot of artists at the brink of that kind of Canadian explosion, and then to come to Miami, it kind of led the same way with Tiny, where um, I didn't really, honestly, had an intention to get back into the music at the time. I wanted to take some time off, and I started looking at what was happening in the Latin business. Started seeing the holes. I started seeing how it was growing, and life put me and Tiny together. We were neighbors in the same building, and we just hit it off. And then when Rock Nation came calling and wanted me to run and be the EVP of their company, uh, Tiny came in as a consultant at Rock Nation, and then that kind of led our relationship to be more consistently working. And then in Tokyo, we took a trip to Tokyo, and we were just like, you know what, like, why don't we just start a company? And so from there, we decided to launch Neon 16 as a full-fledged company, and then I left Rock Nation, and I became unemployed in Tokyo because I kind of said, screw that. And I remember that day because I went to Tanya and said, let's just do it. And Tanya was like, let's just go. So I was like, okay, well, screw it. We out. And in the house where he's sitting in right now, which is our studio home, the same thing. We had a real estate agent who he actually knew. And she started sending those videos. And I saw that one night. And the next morning, I showed it to Tiny. And he was like, let's just go. And we had our kind of kickoff uh, party for our company. And so now a year and about 8 months later, we've kind of grown so fast and built this insane entertainment business and Latin culture business that I think is what we are, culture curators, and here we are.
Hmm. So, Tiny, what was happening with you before you connected with Lex prior to that Rock Nation consultancy?
So with me, you know how Lex mentioned, I started early, same as him. I really got into like the music like industries. Like my first time I got like signed by these two amazing producers in Puerto Rico called Looney Tunes. I was 15, but I really like got my first placement and everything by the time I was 16. So it was dope that we had like that thing in common, that we really arrived in what would be our careers like at that age. So it was something cool. And before like we even met, and that I like, as you mentioned, was a consultant for rock. I was just mainly a producer living in Puerto Rico, doing my thing with the artists who like live over there and stuff. So it was amazing. Like I grew up listening to all those guys, but as a producer, I'm a fan of a lot of other types of genres and other producers and things that I wanted to accomplish as a producer and keep growing and not be locked in as just this reggaeton producer, and that's it. So I took a moment of just to see what happens, and to see if I can like explore more out of like my comfort zone, which was like living in Puerto Rico and working with the same guys. And I moved to Miami, and it was little by little I started learning a lot more, going into different sessions, something that I used to not never do. I would just like give beats to the artist, and that was it. But I learned a lot, went into sessions with different other producers, different songwriters, uh a lot of like instrument players. And I really grew in those like small amount of years that I was like living here in Miami. And then working in relationships, like going into sessions, I got the relationship with Rock Nation, working in certain camps. And that's how we end up like finally connecting. Like we connected a little bit before that, but by fate, we ended up like working in Rock Nation together. And that's how the relationship really like started, of like having a day to day, just talking and seeing that we were really in the same mindset of things that we wanted to do, things that we wanted to accomplish. And we knew that by joining together, I think combining my ideas and my things in the music side and production side, and seeing everything that's missing out there, and his like expertise on everything, on the production side, on the business side, on everything, just the things that then that needed to come together to just get to that next level. I think us together, it was just like an aligning of like the stars, the planets. And I'm super blessed that everything just came together like that. And now you can get things like how we're seeing right now with having 16, and trying to put like our vision out there, and our ideas, our creative like input, and you know try to like move the culture to like better things, and things that we know that kids could like aspire to, and look up to, that probably isn't being established or put out there how it's supposed to be. So however way we can like help guide it, and use our tools for it, that's what we want to accomplish, like with what we're doing right now, and what we're aiming to like going forward.
So, what do you think were some of the bigger lessons both of you learned early on that you're planning to now handle differently now that you're running Neon 16? Like Tiny, you were so young when you first got into this. You're not just like most of us aren't just blessed with the business acumen to know what's right or what's wrong or what to look out for. So, and Lex, I'm curious about this too for you. What were some of those early mistakes, early mishaps, maybe decisions you made that you thought were good, but they turned out not to be? And how are you taking the corrective action with that with Neon?
Um, so I can start, I guess, in that. I think early on, a lot of the mistakes you make are based on emotion, right? You make a lot of decisions based on emotion because we're all creatives, right? We're all in this interview as creatives in one way or the other. And so for us, at least for me, growing up and kind of creating businesses and building businesses, I made a lot of decisions that were not necessarily mistakes, but they were huge learning lessons in not letting my emotion get the best of me in a situation, or really structuring the business correctly. And one of the things that I learned the hard way throughout my career was how to effectively build a business and structure a business so that it can have the growth that, for example, we've had at Neon over the past year and 8 months. It's you really have to have a good structure in place, have a clear, organized understanding of what your vision is, and that part of it was something that before I didn't understand. I just kind of went with the punches as it went, and then what happens is things get out of hand, or the growth, which happens to a lot of companies. Like, you always look at a business and say, oh, it was great when it was small, and now they're this machine and it's a mess, and you have a lot of issues. And so one of the things that I've really have learned along the way has been really structuring the business, and also hire the best people. I think a lot of executives are afraid to bring people who are better than them, because they think, well, that person's going to take my job, or that person's going to create issues, and I felt complete opposite. It's something I've learned from my good friend Tommy Mottola, where it's like, bring the best. Doesn't matter who they are. Doesn't matter if you're not great at touring, bring the best touring person. If you're not the greatest at creative, bring the greatest at creative. And that's something that I think the results that we're having at Neon show that we've been able to find a group of people that are passionate about the vision that we have, but most importantly, that are great at what they do. And that has given me some space to get more creative. And it has also allowed Tiny to focus on what he does best, which is to make incredible music and lead our creative department, and our other producers and our other songwriters.
So Tiny, for you, what are some examples of maybe some decisions you made early on that, in hindsight weren't the best thing, but they still turned out to be a good learning experience for you? And would just generally, what advice would you give to other younger producers coming up now?
Yeah, so with me, it's kind of I got into a genre that was like really young also, so everybody in it was really learning along the way. So I know there were a lot of like probably mistakes and things that could have been done different probably early in my career. I just like the not knowing, the not having the right knowledge about like how things are supposed to work and how it's supposed to be, and just going with the flow, and just relying on what people like probably who I was signed to or who I was working with, like just taking their input, or their what they're telling you into like this is how it's supposed to be. So little by little you learn, no, you're supposed to get this, you're supposed to do this or whatever. Learning about the publishing side, royalties, percentages, and submitting and registering. Like there's a lot of things that really go into it that people like when you start doing music, you're just into it because you love to do music, and you know you're not necessarily aware of everything. And that's something that I think we wanted to adjust going forward. People that probably they can probably get up, start their career a little bit more the right way than probably how we did it, that we thank God like ended up like eventually knowing and adjusting and going through. And it was good also, a learning process of how to do things and just go through it. And also having the blessing of starting early, and like probably being able to get a little bit of those bumps and get back on your feet, and go along the way. But I think it was mainly that most of it was the business side that probably we didn't have the knowledge that we needed. And like even like meeting Lex, and like I still there was a lot that I didn't know by the time I met him. So, and it's things that even not just me, but the urban scene and the Latin community and the reggaeton scene and everything just needed to get adjusted to how everything is supposed to be done. And I think we're doing it the right way with how we're handling our business at Neon, and how we're handling like my career as a producer when I'm working with artists. So I think it's something that's like for the best, not just for me, but for everybody moving forward on how things are supposed to be done. And same thing on just like going into music, me as a producer, just like from the beginning, just giving out beats and not being involved in what the song is and how it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to get out, to now knowing a lot more, knowing who to work with, knowing how to delegate to other of the producers over here that are part of, the team, and coming in as a team to like, uh, achieve our goals and things that we want to accomplish in our visions, like going forward.
So, Tiny, for you, how would you say your definition of being a producer has evolved compared to when you first got into this?
I think it's something that I touch now, is just being more involved in what a song is, and how to like get it to a point where it needs to be, and not, being so distant of just like giving an idea of an instrumental, and having nothing to do with the song after that. So also having the trust from the artist, it also helps a lot to have a career and certain years of experience, and also having the success. I think helps a lot to like, be able to help out, for them to trust you and go into like, we'll follow your lead. Like, probably if we need to like go into this hook, know who to go to get it the right way. If we need something in the instrumental part, we know who to go to. So I think being involved more in the fruition and the completion of a song, I think is something that really resonates with me, and has helped me a lot as a producer.
And then Lex, for you, if you could give your younger self when you were first coming into this business a checklist of those, specific items to keep in mind, for an upcoming artist, what things would be on there? Get yourself a good entertainment attorney, make sure your accounting is right, make sure your publishing is right. Like, what would that document look like if you were to give it to your younger self? What's going to be on there?
Uh, I mean, there's a few things as far as both personal and business. I think on the personal side, I think understanding that character over talent is everything, right? Like throughout my career, I've seen a lot of people that are extremely talented, but unfortunately, they had character flaws that caused them to throw away their dream, or caused them to not understand what it needs to be. That it's a team effort. It's a lot of give and take, and I think sometimes artists or creatives, we forget that you do need someone to balance it out. We don't know it all, and you want to trust your gut feeling, and you want to be confident in who you are, but you also have to value the people around you. And you see the difference. Like, I think when you're working with a good manager, or you have a good combination, you see the fruition of that come from the success that the team has together. And then you've also seen it in the history of music, when there's a manager, an artist, or something that kind of stop working together, and then you see the artist's career start falling. And so I would say, character over talent, 100%. I definitely say, teamwork is the key, and understanding, uh, having a great entertainment attorney, but also having a manager that you trust. You have to trust someone, right? And that's why I think you're careful on who you trust, but you have to trust someone. If you don't have, as a creative, a bouncing wall that you can kind of throw ideas, and there's many times, even with Tiny, that we always discuss that, like, he might like something and I might not like it, and I might like something and he might not like it. But the fact that we have an opportunity to discuss it also allows us to trust. He trusts when I tell him, Tiny, I think this is what we need to do. And I also trust when there's times that he tells me, hey, I think this is correct. I think we need to leave this the way it is. And so that balance of trust is very important, for the future of any artist. And then most of it all is like, you can't do anything in life and expect to be successful unless you're gonna be a master at it, unless you're gonna be all in. And that takes time. I mean, Tiny spends hours going through sounds. I spend hours. There's days where I don't come home until super late. And I think one of the things that was the core foundation of Neon was excellence. We wanted to do everything the best that we possibly can. And sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes things, you have other things. But the one thing that, people can tell you about the way that we do business and we operate is with excellence and with great character. We're both humble guys. We're guys not searching for ego. We're not searching for the admiration of people. I think we are our greatest competitors against ourselves. We want to beat ourselves every single time. He wants to beat his music every time. We as a team want to beat the creative and our business sense every time. And I want to continue to push myself as a business person, not only for Tiny, but the rest of our clients, to elevate what they're doing, to elevate their way of thinking. Um, So if I would put it all down, I would say character over talent. I would say you have to have a team. You have to learn how to trust. You have to have a clear vision. And then you got to get ready to work.
And Tiny, how's about you? What do you think that, that like one page list of things to give to your younger self would look like? What would be on that?
Wow, I think Lex really touched up on a lot of those. I think when you just strive for excellence, I think that's the best thing like in any career. You just like if you go into it like if you go in with the passionate, just wanting to be the best of what you can be. I think that really opens up like every door, every opportunity, everything that goes with it. Like not to conform with just a little bit of success or what people think that you should be doing or is the way that you should be doing things, but just keep like striving to like grow and be the best that you can be. I think and that for me would have been is the mindset from day one, but at the same time you get along the road those like second thoughts of like probably doubting, am I doing the right thing, and am I being selfish trying to do something that people don't agree with, and probably I should do what they say and just like stay doing that or whatever. I think that for me was probably a moment that I would say just believe in yourself and just like strive for what you want and to accomplish in life. And I think when I realized that and got that feeling again from when I started, that I wanted just to do what I love and keep being a fan of myself of what I'm doing before even anything like goes out. I think that really helped me out. And you can see it when the music is out, people connect with it, the artists connect with it. So I think that for me would be my main thing that I could probably tell myself, like just believe in you like you did from the beginning. And I think that really like helps you out in the way, and also like having the right team and like sticking to the people that are going to be true to you, tell you the things how they are, and no egos when it comes to like striving for the best and getting the best out of anything, whether it's a song, whether it's a deal, whether it's a vision that we have, just like come together as a team and have the right people around you. And I know that's really gonna like help everything come together in the end.
It sounds like this pursuit of excellence is a common thing with you guys now at Neon, and I'm just curious to know too. What does that day to day routine look like? Because obviously, this excellence doesn't just form overnight. It's probably like a stacking of bricks. And so, like Tiny, I've heard you say, and Lex, you touched on this too. You spend quite a bit of time in the studio every day. So like what does that daily routine in that pursuit of excellence look like for you? And then and Lex, I'm curious to hear what that routine looks like, both personally and professionally.
So for me, I think it's more of like adjusting and being a little bit more organized. I think really helps a lot to just like have in mind. Okay, I'm going into the studio. Normally, I come in like at one p.m. too, and I'll stay like let's say not crazy late unless we're at a moment where we gotta like finish a song because we need to like execute, or we're finishing a project or an album. That's when you'll stay in the studio like to the next day, and it doesn't matter because we want to achieve something. But it's just spending the hours of just like practicing. Like I never stopped learning, I never stopped like uh figuring out new things that I want to do or want to create. So it's just like putting the time in, because that's the best way for you to like just perfect and do the best that you can do, whether in what is for me is in music. So I think just putting the time in every day, coming into the studio, trying to see what's the next move, and having a list and probably have a little bit more of structure of these are the things that we need to get done, and execute them, and not let everything come together at the end, and then it's a little bit of a mess, so you can't really give 100% to each one of those like tracks. So I think that for me has been very really helpful. And having our studio over here is something super uh helpful, and that's like helped me a lot to just like come in with the mindset of we're going to work, we're going to like execute, and I think that's like the mindset that all the guys working here are, absorbing and getting into that too.
Uh,
Yeah, for me, my daily routine is a little bit of everything. I think sometimes I juggle uh, a bit of all kind of conversations, and my assistant always says that he doesn't understand how I put on so many hats. But my daily routine is very similar to that. I'm up a lot early. I'm up around 9 o'clock. I'm up on answering emails. So I usually like will wake up, answer some emails, then kind of get ready for the day, have some breakfast, have some time with my girlfriend. By that time, my assistant's already in my place, going over all my schedule for the day, and um, we have different staffs. So I either have a marketing staff meeting or a creative A&R meeting, and so and then again, I'm touching our investment portfolio. I'm touching our music company, our media company, our live events. So really depending on what's going on that week. But I'm usually in the office or in calls until around 9 or 10 at night. Then I come home, kind of distress a little bit, plan what my next day is, and do it all over again. And I pass by the studio um, probably what twice, 3 times a week. I try to pass by, see what's going on, and see what else is going on that creative. But from a conversation point, I mean, Tiny and I speak consistently on every song, on every creative, overseeing everything. So that's usually my day. I'll go to the office, go to the studio, and kind of relay whatever's going on that day or that week. But I'm usually back to back calls until like 10 o'clock. My day is filled with a lot of these Zooms.
yeah, yeah. So I want to touch on something you guys mentioned earlier about just building relationships because it sounds like that's such a big part of all this. So and for both of you, I guess it was more of just like a hand to hand, listen to my music in the beginning. How has the relationship building process evolved for you guys, and also how big a part does that play with Neon now today, as far as just continuing to build those relationships?
So I think I have a motto when it comes to building network, and it's never approach anybody with your hands out wanting something. Always approach them with how can I help. And I think it's one of the things that both Tiny and I clicked on, because he's also very much a how can I help. And so even when we connected, it was never about like, you're Tiny, I need this, or I want to manage it. As a matter of fact, we didn't even talk management for a while. Like, or it was more like I knew what he was going through, and I was here to be someone he can kind of throw ideas at and give advice and tell him to do this. And I was helping him out. I mean, till this day, we've never formalized legally our like manager to client. We're business partners, but we have a handshake and a relationship. And I think through the process of our business building, it has always been that aspect. I think whether it's with another artist manager, or whether it's with producers, or whether it's with the label, I'm always trying to figure out what else I can do. How else can I help you position yourself into something that could be a blessing to you? And in doing so, we build really organic relationships, because we don't have a natural interest in trying to get something from the person. And so I think that's been a very key part of our infrastructure in building, and also why you will see that, like, when people talk about Neon, or they talk about Tiny or myself, that's a reflection of the character of the company.
And then Tiny, for you, how did that relationship building process evolve from when you were starting off early on to getting where you are now? Because it seems like it's such an integral part of building your brand as a producer is getting in those rooms. What are you doing to always make yourself valuable in those situations, and how has that evolved for you from when you first started up until now?
Yeah, so for me, from the beginning, it's something that I've had to learn and adjust sometimes too, because as a person, I'm really I'm really reserved. I don't really talk much, so probably I'll be in a session and probably you won't even notice that I'm there. But I think just like being the type of person that how we mentioned, we're just here like to see how we can be of help. I think that really connects with a person when you get that good vibe from a person, and they tend to come back and they tend to like what we're doing, and that's how I think we start like going back and forth into like having a relationship, not just of like coming to a session and that's it, but we can talk on a daily basis and exchange ideas, and also having the success in certain songs. I think what I mentioned, they have that trust in you also when it's a time when, bro, we have this idea, they're willing to listen and give it a chance. And we try to do everything the right way, not just on like going to a session or whatever, but everything, our business and everything. And I think that really resonates with the people, and know that they're in good hands when they're like working with us, when everything is done the right way. So I think that really helps relationships grow and go even further. So how you mentioned is really something super important for them to be a part of like what we're doing, and trust us. So when I'm doing my thing as a producer artist and I want to put singles out, the people that really go with us on that journey, and trust that we're doing the right thing, and know that whenever they're doing their thing, we're there to support and do our part. So it's something really important that I want the producers over here also like to see, and go through the process, see how probably I go into a session or attack and a project, and probably get those little inputs that probably I got a little bit of them when I was like starting my career, and now I'm seeing like how everything is done. But it's something that's uh really a great part of like what we're doing, is having those relationships, and having them being impeccable, being something that people are proud of them when they work with us, and when we're doing something together.
It seems like most producers are naturally on the more reserved side, which is why Blanco hasn't said much. He's just time. So I'm just curious to know too, like what's your vision now for Neon 16? You guys have accomplished so much up until this point. Why feel the need to now deal with the extra headaches associated with running your own thing from top to bottom? What's the vision you both have for this, and where do you see it going?
So my staff sometimes tells me that I have too many ideas for my own good. Uh, you know, uh, but I think it's my creative expression. The more that I've mingled in and out of music and gotten more into the business side, for me, and I think for us as a company, it's always been like, what else? What else can we do? What else hasn't been done? And I think that's one of the things that sparked the relationship we have as friends, is that we've never really been like, oh, this is okay. I think why Tiny's been the successful producer that he has is because he never looked at a beat and say, well, yeah, I mean, I can do a dembow and be okay. Like, he's always been like, what else? What else can I push? What other sound can I get? And you see it in his fashion, you see it in everything, and you see it in what we're doing on the business side, and kind of everything I've done career wise is always like, what else can we do? So for us, the vision has really become the premier uh, multimedia company in the business. I think we have a potential to impact culture from multiple ways, not only being successful selling music or touring, which is kind of the core of our business, but really looking at other things like multimedia and the film and television world, and looking at investments like our restaurant or our e-gaming company, or our many real estate holdings. Like, we like to look at this and say everything's an opportunity for us to get creative. Everything's an opportunity for us to push the limit on something no one had done before, whether it's our relationship with the NFL or our events. So I think essentially what our goal is for the next 5 years of building this business is really look at every opportunity and every hole where someone has not been able to fill or accomplish something, and go after that. And I think Hollywood is definitely next on our mark, and it's something that we've focused past 4 months of our lives here, and going into 2021. Second, I think we're focusing heavily on breaking our other artists on the label, and continue to grow the incredible legacy that we're leaving with Tiny's career. And I think last is but not least at all is it's our charity and our opportunity to give back. I think there's so much to do in that world. And when we launched Human X, that came out of you know Tiny calling me and being like, "Hey, I see all these things that are going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. How do I give back? How do I contribute? What's enough? What's not enough?" And it was like, just like him as a creative, there's so many people that sometimes don't know how to give, or how to do it in a way where maybe they're not going to get critiqued or feel a certain way about it. And so Human X was a opportunity for us to use our music and our talent and our creative and our relationships to build something that ultimately for us is a goal, is to launch a festival with it, launch music schools with it, and really focus all our attention. I think from 5 years to now, both of us, if life would have it, we'd probably have kids and be at a different stage of our personal lives. And I want to focus, and we as a company want to focus on utilizing our platform and our success and our finances to giving back and actually making a difference. And I take as much time as possible, and so does he, doing interviews and panels and things where we can teach producers, and artists and managers like what it really means to be successful in this business.
Awesome. Blanco, is there anything you wanted to add? Any questions? Anything that comes to mind? Okay. Cool, cool. So I just wanted to close out, guys. What's something you've just wanted the chance to talk about, maybe that you haven't had the opportunity to, any parting advice, parting ideas, things on your mind right now?
Hmm. I mean, I think we touched up on a lot of things that we emphasize and that we want people like to know and probably learn a little bit from, in their careers and what they're doing. And as long as we can help out with like our careers and the time that we've been like doing our thing, I think that's something that we're really proud of, and that we want to like leave. It's just like having that little bit of knowledge that could probably help you out with certain decisions, or how to do certain things. So I think that's something that we want to like keep putting out there, whether it's in panels or doing these types of interviews. I think it's something that I want, because looking back at how we started, probably we didn't have those tools, and for us to give it forward, I think is the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would double that and say, I think we're at a time, at a global space where we need to remember to just continue to be great people, regardless of what we do, regardless of the success that we have. We have an opportunity to affect, and influence people with everything that we do. And if you can use every blessing you've gotten in your life to influence positivity, I think we should do it and continue to do it. I think it's our mission as humans. So, and if there's anything that people should remember about Neon when it's all said and done, is that like our motto says, we fear nothing, and we want to impact everything.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Guys, thank you so much. Really, it's been such a pleasure talking to you guys, really.
I
Same.
appreciate you, bro. Same here.
Awesome. All
Both
right.
of you. Thank you.
Yeah.